Hey everyone, welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden rulebook that literally shapes millions of homes here in the Philippines. It's called Batas Pambanza 220, or BP220 for short. And look, if you've ever wondered about the real nitty-gritty of an affordable housing community, like why is a road a certain width, or how small can a house legally be, then you are absolutely in the right place. All right, let's jump right in.
So let's start with this question. Who actually calls the shots on these projects? Is it the developer trying to save a buck, the architect with a grand vision, or maybe the local government? Well, the real answer is a national law, and it's all about setting minimum standards to make sure these communities are safe and, actually livable. And that law is BP 220. So the first thing to get is that BP 220 isn't just one single set of rules. It's actually pretty smart about it. It splits affordable housing into two big categories. You've got socialized housing on one side, which is this crucial safety net for the most underprivileged citizens, and then on the other you have economic housing, which is really geared towards your average income Filipino family. The rules are different for each, and as we're about to see, those differences really matter.
Now, just to be super clear about this, BP 220 is its own thing. It's not the National Building Code, and it's not the Fire Code, even though they all work together. See, BP 220 has a very specific, laser-focused mission to create a unique set of standards that makes housing more affordable, but without ever sacrificing the basic things that make a community work.
We're going to tackle this in three parts, and we're starting big picture. Think of this as the neighborhood blueprint. This is all about how the entire subdivision gets laid out on paper before a single shovel ever hits the ground.
Let's kick things off with the arteries of the community, the roads. I know, this looks like just a table of numbers, but these widths are so critical. BNP 220 is incredibly specific, laying out everything from a wide 8-meter major road all the way down to a skinny 2-meter alley. And why all the fuss? Well, it's pretty simple. This is what makes sure a fire truck can get to your house in an emergency, or that your family car can actually get through. It makes the whole neighborhood just work.
Okay, now here's a detail that seems small, but it's a huge deal for the overall design. What is the actual difference between a pathwalk and an alley? I mean, they sound kind of the same, right? Well, an alley is really just there to break up a long, continuous block of houses. And super important, your front door cannot open onto an alley. A pathwalk, though, is totally different. It's designed to be the main walkway to a home's front door. But here's the catch. This is only allowed in socialized housing projects. So yeah, one's for access, the other is just a divider. It's a tiny rule with a massive impact on the layout. A great community is so much more than just houses and roads, and BP 220 totally gets that. It actually requires that any project over 1 hectare has to set aside space for parks, for playgrounds, and for a multi-purpose community center. This really shows you that the law isn't just about building lots. It's about creating genuinely livable communities.
All right, so we've looked at the big neighborhood picture. Now let's zoom in a level to the individual property. Part 2 is all about the rules for your specific piece of land, everything from its total size to how much of it faces the street. This table lays out the absolute smallest lot sizes allowed, and the main story is right there in the 2 columns. You can see that economic housing always requires a slightly bigger lot. Just look at a row house. You get 28 square meters for socialized, but 36 for economic. Now that 8 square meter difference might not sound like a lot, but that can be the difference between having a small patch of garden or not, or just a little more breathing room for a growing family. Just as important as the total size is the frontage. That's how wide the lot is. For single detached houses and duplexes, it's pretty much the same. But check out the row house. You get an extra ½ a meter in economic housing. A ½ a meter! Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, but talk to any architect, and they will tell you that extra 50 centimeters is absolute gold. It can completely change the internal layout, how much light gets in, and really the entire feel of the home. Okay, it's time for our final and maybe most important zoom in. We've gone from the neighborhood to the lot. Now let's step through the front door and look at the rules that shape the actual space you live in. 18 square meters. Just take a second and try to picture that space. This is the absolute minimum floor area that's allowed for a socialized housing unit under BP 220. It's definitely a small space, no doubt about it, but it's designed to be a very affordable first step for a family.
And just to give that number a little more context, the minimum for an economic housing unit is a bit bigger, at 22 square meters. So you can see how these minimums are trying to strike that tricky balance between keeping things affordable and providing a basic, decent living space.
Okay, this next part is a huge one. This is a distinction that every single potential homebuyer really needs to understand. For socialized housing, a developer is only required to give you what they call a shell house. So what's that? It means you get the basic structure, the outside walls, the floor, the basic plumbing and wiring. But, and this is a big but, you might have to install your own interior walls, sometimes even the windows and doors. Economic housing, on the other hand, has to be delivered as a complete house. That means it's the shell plus all those other elements are already finished. It is a critical difference in what you're actually getting on turnover day.
The rules get even more detailed once you're inside the house. BP220 sets minimums for everything. We're talking a minimum ceiling height of 2 meters, a certain width for your front door, and even very specific dimensions for stairs to make sure they're safe to use. These aren't just suggestions, they are hard and fast requirements for every single home built under this law.
So, after all of these numbers, all these technical details, why does any of it really matter? What's the big idea behind BP220?
Well, the thing is, BP220 isn't just about building cheap houses. Not at all. It's about setting a fundamental standard. You can think of it as a blueprint that makes sure every single affordable housing project gives families a foundation of dignity, of safety, and of genuine community. At its very core, what this law does is guarantee that the most basic needs of a human settlement are met. That means every resident knows they'll have access to water, to power, to proper drainage, and to open spaces. It's basically a safety net that stops developers from cutting corners on the things that truly matter for a healthy life.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. We know BP220 provides this essential safety net for quality and safety, but is it possible that these same minimums could also act as a ceiling? Could they unintentionally stifle more creative or innovative ideas for affordable housing? It's the central debate around the law, and definitely something worth thinking about.